Hi, Carol here. A warm welcome to my craft room, and it is vintage card times. 4 sides of a vintage card. And isn't this a beautiful old book? It is in the 1800s, and I got it at a bookstore, but you can barely touch it because the pages just come apart so easily, and it's poems. It's the Old Webster's Dictionary, and then there's one with songs, and there's one with poems in it. Now it's 10:30 at night, so bear with me. You never know what's going to happen. So what I want to tell you while my hands are floating in the air there is this is a vintage card. You know I love vintage cards, okay? I adore making them. I don't know why I haven't made them in a long time, but my friend Janet encouraged me to make her some vintage cards, so that's what I'm going to do. And I'll explain the process, but not only that, I'm going to give you some positive, input to making, I was going to say the do's and don'ts, but I don't really think there are do's and don'ts to vintage creating and shabby chic creating. I think there is avenues of improving your vintage look, and there's avenues of wanting to know how to build layers and how to get the look that you're so wanting on your empty page. I'm going to be quite honest with you as I go through this in the fact that you need, first of all, to have the confidence to be able to reach out and not waver. That would be my first suggestion, to be able to reach out to one of your dies, especially the spell binder dies that have 4 or 5, that are all fit together. That will work for you. You don't need to have 100 dies to make a vintage card, but this one in particular, the round one, it has many layers that all fit together. And that will certainly give you many looks that I'm going to show you. And make a gusset, okay? I chose to use this craft paper from Michaels. Now, it's not the thickest craft paper. It's pretty good. It's probably an 80 pound, which is fine. But I know I'm going to build so many layers on it that it'll be 400 pounds by the time I get done a 4-sided vintage creation. Right? So I never worry about the first layer because I know I am going to make it heavy. So here we are. I'm wanting a gusset. I want a 1/4 inch gusset. Now I made this rather small. I made another one, and I'm going to take you through that journey in my next tutorial because I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do a totally feminine, over-the-top bows and ribbons and all kinds of goodness on the next one, but it will be a larger card. This one, oh, can you see what's in this graphic 45 8x8 book? It's called Botanical Teas. And I bought it like this, just the 8x8 book many years ago. And I bought a lot of them and had them in my storage unit. And I remembered they were there. So I went and chose this one. I love the colors. I love the colors because it has a mixture of subtle, calm colors, that don't scream out at you like this one here in the brown tones. But then you can go right into the bright and cherry, which takes you on a whole nother journey of creating a vintage card, a shabby chic card. There's believe it or not, there's 2 different mindsets when you do vintage. There's the brown, subtle tones that you're going to use with vintage photo and you pretty well know craft paper, and you're going to stay in with, I'm going to do the teal, the peach, it's kind of like an orchid color, and of course the browns tones to this card. And then I'm going to show you how to get a vintage card that looks over the top beautiful, almost to like the wedding style card, but only in vintage. Okay, now my thoughts on vintage cards is this: there's no mistakes when making a vintage card. There really isn't. The idea of a vintage card is having that free relaxation that goes along with these types of cards. They're not like, you don't put A on B and C on D and you're not building a puzzle. What you're doing is you're free, your mind is being free to all the creative abilities that you can muster to put together something that is back in the day, doilies and roses and filigree and sayings and all these kind of beautiful things. I think we all love to do that. So I'm going to walk you through my thoughts. This is my thoughts, and then I'll share, if I had to do it over again, what I would do. I've made a few mistakes, and I'm going to take you through that. And I'm also going to encourage you to try one of these cards, because it is oh so simple, and you get to put your stash into use, into good use. So first you need a pad of paper. 8 by 8 works really well. And whatever colors you like in the vintage or shabby chic, take that out. And generally those colors are muted, or else they're flowered. And a lot of stripes. You get a lot of stripes and dots. So be prepared for that. Take out a die. I like to take out a 5-layer die. 6 if you can get a 6-layer die, because then the smallest one you'll be able to make a sentiment. To put a sentiment in a tag, right? Try to take your paper and stretch it so you don't waste any, because you're going to use a lot of layers of paper. You're going to use a lot of layers of layers. So many things in your stash are going to pop out and make it to your desk where you're creating. You're not even going to believe it. So here I'm using the Gemini. Now the Gemini for me is something I had to get used to. I'm still not used to it, where the dies have to be facing up and you can't see them when you put the paper on. And yeah, I've cut up 2 magnet things like crazy. I think I've got them taped together. Look at them, they're a mess. It's almost like I'm die cutting my magnets. I'm going to use them on a card. Yes, and the one thing I noticed with the Gemini, you do need shims. And if you're new to card making, all a shim is a thicker piece of paper over top of your paper to press that down into your die and enable it to cut in one pass. That's all that is. Don't be afraid of vintage cards, really. You are going to love the process. I promise you that. So if you just take out some of your stash, any of your stash, and we'll work together after you see how I am creating. So the biggest challenge for me, were these thin dies from Tim Holtz going through the Gemini. I didn't want to break my Gemini, and I didn't want to break the acrylic plates and have it flying all over the place. But I took the chance, because that's the kind of person I am. I take chances. And I thought, I gotta find out. I'm just gonna pray that that machine stops before it blows up. Gives me an opportunity to back it up and start again. And I'm gonna tell you, this was not the sandwich. But I'll tell you, the sandwich for these thinlet dies, just take out your magnet plate. That magnet, that spun, rubbery magnet. Remove that, then it'll go through. But I'm going to tell you, did it bang. I went through there I almost lost the whole front section of my hair. Just in shock. My eyeballs were just like, what did I do? But it worked. The next, I thought, okay, that's not going to work. It wasn't going to go through. It made a big bang. I took it out. And then I knew, okay, I have to take a layer out. It's too thick. And I chose the magnet. And as soon as I chose to remove that magnet sheet, it worked perfectly, and it cut perfectly, and it cut 3 layers of craft paper, by the way. I didn't know I had 3 layers attached to that. So, excuse me, look at all of the paper flowers that I have from that. And then I have these beautiful, the other one, that one right there that we're looking at, that's that accordion thing that I never can remember what it's called. You know, you go valley, your mountain valley, something. That's the way you're supposed to say it. But what I say is you just crease them all. You know, you just pull them all together, and then a rosette. There, it came to me. You're going to make 2 rosettes, one small, one large, but they are going on the same card, because I wanted to show you 4 cards. But because I love to make my cards 4 layer, like I like to do every side of my card. You always know that. Isn't this card color gorgeous with that paper? I chose that out because I'm going to use that beautiful, oh, it reminds me of a, oh, I can't even say, I was going to say a lobster, but not really. It's just the prettiest pastel color, orange. It's not even an orange. I can't think of the color, but anyway, I had this filigree die from a Christmas set, and then I had another set from Penny Black that I'm using here, and anything that kind of, you know, has that filigree look, you know, the kind of swirly look, if you have that in your stash, it'll work perfect. Pearls, pearls is a must. Lace is a must if you like to go crazy, and also the that netting stuff, that white netting, that'll come to me too. Cheesecloth. Cheesecloth is wonderful to use in a vintage shabby chic card. So here I am. I'm taking the filigree out of this cardstock. This is Stampin' Up! Cardstock that I had from ages ago. And I do all of my pre-arrangements at the beginning. That way I can get rid of everything and start on my card. So I just take the day, if it takes a day, and it did. I finally realized I could use this Altenew little wee die cutter, and the 2 dies that I was suffering with on that Gemini fit right in here, so I could make as many as I wanted. It was great. You know, once my brain got rolling, it was fabulous. And I did speed it up so it wasn't a 3-hour tutorial. That's another thing I tried to do. It's hard to, you know, take 4, this is 4 cards into 1 card. It's the front, the inside 2 covers, and the back. I decorated them all. That way you get inspired to make 4 cards. You can choose which one, which side or creation that you like for yourself. And I thought that was kind of nice. That's why I do 4 sided cards. And so here's our accordion. You're going to put some glue on the one end to hold it together. You do need to use the 2 of them. There's 1 large and 1 small. And if you haven't gone crazy yet in your day, this will kind of help you, because you burn yourself on the hot glue gun. Yowzer, you'll see me doing that. And then I'll fake that I didn't burn myself, but I really did, because I didn't want to show that I do it 3 or 4 times and I haven't learned from the first time. And then these things will boing out at you. See, watch this. Oh, owie. Yeah. So you want to get this flower. One of the flowers that I cut out looked really nice, because I'm going to put butterflies on top of here, and I'm going to distress them with Vintage Photo and another dark color. The one I worked with the most, I haven't put it back in, and it is the Vintage Photo. So many shabby chic, if you're new to this, shabby chic cards, the Vintage Photo fits in very well. Even if you have bright colors, it does look nice. So here we are. I've got my flower. I will distress it. And the big word for making these cards is distress. You're going to distress everything. Your wrists are going to need surgery when you're done here, because you need to get them in a cast. Mine were so sore the next day, and that's because, you know, you're twisting and turning and holding and pulling and pushing and all kinds of movements going on. Like, look at this, trying to get that, this is the larger of the accordion. So I just sit that glue while that accordion strip is down, and then I can keep moving and keep making that accordion. I had forgot about these. I used to love them when I first bought this. It's a Tim Holtz Thinlet die. It's a long one. And I don't know. These are fun for children's cards because you can use bright colors to make like lollipop things on, you know, on in a booth or as a ride, or there's just so many things. They can be used as hot air balloons. You just put 2 strips on each side and use it for a hot air balloon card. Many, many things. But here, let's stick with my card. I love the idea of having the glue stuck to my finger. I had so much glue. Oh my, I have a story to tell you. So here I like a platform so that I can set my butterflies on the platform. And I chose my platform to be a flower and put it on top. And then you'll dig out all the glue that kind of oozed out. I had a glue gun that exploded on me. I have never seen a glue gun explode, but it did. And did it scare me? I was sitting here and it just exploded and all this smoke came out. And I thought it was my good lamp that I use, you know, one of my lamps for doing my videos. And I thought, oh no. And I looked over, the smoke was all over the place. And what happened was my glue gun overheated. And it couldn't take the pressure, I guess, and it just exploded right beside me. Yeah, that woke me up. I was moving faster after that. Yeah, I was moving fast right down into the garage so my husband couldn't see that I nearly burnt down the house. That's what I was doing. Oh yeah, strategy. And now butterflies. Come on, get it. Oh yes. Come on, get it. You have 2 butterflies beside you. Yeah, he's going the hard way. So we're going to set these aside. This is the, I wish I could think of that color. I don't like to say lobster color, and it's not a real peach, but I'll stick to the peach till I get that. So I made the one fancy butterfly. It had little holes all in it. Then I cut apart the teal colored paper, and then I did the edges with the vintage photo. And then I'm going to cut apart a larger one with that beautiful pink that one, the orangey. I know there's a name for that, but I won't keep going over that with you. Now, I have a ton of collections by Graphic 45, so I took out all of the cardboard pieces to see if I could match up the pieces to the Graphic 45 Botanical Tea. And I did find this Easter one. It didn't have anything to do with Easter, well, except for it said it was an Easter collection, but it had buttons, and they were just the right color to use, exact color actually. And then, you know, at the bottom of my bows, I like to put either little buttons or some jewelry or something on the, you know, right at the bottom to hold the ribbon to look nice. And I found these little chipboard buttons that were so cute, and they had little butterflies on them. I loved it. And, you know, I was truly, friends, in my happy place doing this card for you. I was totally in my happy place. I smiled so much that my cheeks hurt while I was creating it. So that means this is one of the avenues I really enjoy doing, and that's creating vintage shabby chic cards. Thank you, Janet, for reminding me. And you can take this, you know, if you're learning the cards, you can move over to journaling, because journaling is just a large card on a flat surface, and you don't have to fold it. You're working on one flat surface, and you're going to just go crazy and really have fun with vintage, you know. And we love to do that. And I think vintage is coming back in. People seem to want to collect it. I bought a vintage postal drawer, I think they called it, and I filled it up with over 100 wooden stamps, and it's hanging in my craft room because I did my craft room in vintage things, furniture and whatnot. So I got that last week, a few days ago actually. I bought it on Facebook, something or other. I don't go on that. My sister was on there and I bought it up. She showed me where you can buy stuff there. So I went on it looking for an easel for my sister and I found that. And so I bought it and I love it. So here we go. The leaves. These leaves are, I'm going to leave the link on my blog for sure. Because if you're looking for leaves, these are gorgeous. Now, the first thing you have to do with, if you get this set, is you have to be careful because the stem is so fine. It is really fine. But the beautiful, they look like elm leaves. That's what they remind me of. They have, you know, the little points on all the ends. And I'm going to show you how I colored them with Copics and my Prisma pencils to make them look like real leaves. So we'll get into that. And because I do need a little bit of realism in my vintage cards. You know, I sneak it in now and again. So, but my one thought to tell you is not to overthink. Don't overthink your card. Just look at all the stuff you took out and lay it on top at this spot and that spot and think in threes. If you have 3 things in this corner, you're going to move to the opposite corner and put 3 more up there. If you are surrounding the center, work in 5s, like a group of 5 things in the center. And I'm going to show you that. And then it becomes a habit. And it makes your card making so quick and enjoyable. Okay? Now I had these craft little envelopes. They're almost like a vellum, but not, you know. They're just beautiful. I can't. They're not paper. They have this mix of vellum and paper. Let's say that. So I wanted to put some really nice poems on there. I have one that says a baby poem, and it's gorgeous. I have a friendship poem that I had on there, and be mindful, okay? When you do something, you know, it seems like I'm saying, oh, don't worry about this or that, but be mindful of what goes down, that the person receives the card is going to read. You know, that the printing isn't upside down, or there isn't anything in there you really wouldn't want a person to read, because in old books, that can happen if you're getting like a you know, just a reading novel or a mystery novel or whatever. I try to stick to music notes and to Christian little children's books that are aged, and then I know I don't have anything to compromise. And when I don't have to read through it before I put it down on my project. I don't have that much time. And I said there to you think in 3 odd numbers when you're doing cards, any cards, vintage cards, shabby chic, but think in 3s. When you're going to lay something down, I'm going to decorate each one of these little envelopes. I love them because the envelope folds in a half moon at the top so that I can put in a little tag. And I matched the tag to what the poem said. I don't know how that worked out, I'm telling you. It just did. This was just the day. I was loving it. So you're going to take these, and I only used 2. No, I only used 1, but I have 2 left for 2 more cards. And tomorrow I'm going to show you a shabby chic bridal. It could be friendship, but it's going to be super frilly, gorgeous, packed, thick, with weight, and all 4 sides. So like I always do, you know that. So here you have the first layer, which is the envelope. Then you're going to have a lighter paper underneath this craft. So you're going to go find cream colored cardstock, hopefully in the stash. I found it in the Graphic 45 papers. It had beautiful script on it and I loved it. So I just tore it off. I didn't cut it, just tore it with my hand, as you can see, and made the top layer crooked so that you could see what you tore off underneath. I like to see what I'm putting on there, a little portion of it. And then I wanted lace. So I went into my stash and I grabbed some lace. And that's going to go to either the right side or the left side. And once again, we're working in thirds when we first begin, when you begin this. And this is true if you make a tag or you're making a card. And when you do all of your stuff, your die cutting and your stamping and your picking out of your pictures at the beginning and get it all out there, you can have it all around you and you get so crazy inspired by what you see around you. And it's not hard to put something together when it's right there in front of you. It might take you a little bit of time because you have so much to choose from, but you really are going to enjoy this process. Now, I tear apart wedding gowns and bridesmaids gowns and anything with lace and applique. I have tons of zipped up huge bags, little bags, all kinds, because I used to make wedding albums out of lace albums. And so I went overboard with collecting applique and lace, but that's okay. And then I cut it all off into sections so that I didn't have to go searching through big, bulky stuff. I put them in smaller, like you can see there. And I know what's in there. These are the leaves. They're called, I call them skeleton leaves. I call them, I don't know if they're called angel leaves, I think they're called skeleton leaves because they're so crazy fine. You almost feel like they're going to be brittle. I took out 3 and I didn't use any of them. I put one down and I didn't like the look of it. But that's the beauty. You put it away. You use it on your next project. And then I liked this flower cluster with the chocolate brown in the middle, and it had some nice lace wrapped around it. Loved this, so I knew I was going to use that on the back of my card, not on these, just on the back. But if you have something out, don't think small, like, okay, I got to get out for these 3 envelopes. No, look around you and think, okay, what can I get out for the card, for the inside card? Do you think there's something in there I can use? And then throw it on your table, and then you can put it away. It helps you in the process. It's like in your craft room. If everything is out, you're going to use it. But if it's in a drawer, you're not going to see it, and you forget about all the goodness in your drawer, so or cupboard. And yeah, so here comes the lace, and I took the vintage photo and went over the lace. I don't like to put just beige lace underneath anything. It just looks flat, and I don't like the look of it. So I just distress the if it has a scallop, I will distress the scallop and show that underneath the card. And you don't have to have a lot shown. You know, the eye can see things that we think it doesn't see. And that's when we get cards, we notice everything, you know, all these little wonderful thoughts of laying down our own stash. And everybody's stash, you know, is pretty close, I think. You know, if this is the style of card you do, we pretty well, you know, have the same thing in our craft room. So here I'm distressing. This one didn't get distressed. So, and another thought is to use your hot glue instead of using liquid glue. Because this is small and you really shouldn't get it too far off. You're not, I used my hot glue gun. I took another one out. I have 5 of them because I get them when they're on sale, and I'm really thankful because that one blew up. Another one leaked so bad I was using sticks of glue, more sticks, watching it flow like Niagara Falls than I was putting on my project, so I threw that one out today. And then I found another one, and it is being very good to me. So here we go. Back to seeing what I need. I want the buttons. I certainly want the buttons, and I'm going to put matching ribbons. And I like to put unusual ribbon through this. If you have anything, you know, you don't, just little pieces, because a button doesn't take a lot of ribbon. So try to find your leftover pieces and use them up. And then I took out those two little butterfly cardboard round circles there. There's the one teal color I'm going to use. It had kind of frills on it. It was really nice. So I'm going to tie a bow in there, and then I'm going to make something unusual with it. That's what I like to do. I like to create out of the box and make out something different. So I put the bow. That's not different, right? I put a bow, and then I took out my frills, and then I took out my lacquer, the one I use, my crystal lacquer. That's glossy accents, same thing. And I poured the glossy accents in the top, the lacquer, of my bow. And then I poured all of those frills on top. And then I poured more glossy accents. Well, first the glue. Then I'm going to press that in. Then I'm going to get the glossy accents, and I'm going to pour it on there. And I'm going to have a whole lot of frills, okay? Then I'm going to form my bow so it's poofy. You know, like it just doesn't fall flat. One thing about vintage cards, you want to keep them so that not too many things are just flat. Try to, you know, bulk things up so it has some dimension. Always makes things look more beautiful. There's my frills. Oh yeah, get that glossy accents, but mine is crystal lacquer. It's from Heartfelt Creations. And I like it because it is more liquidy than glossy accents. It comes out fast and it dries. Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I just love it, and you get it in a nice 4-ounce bottle for a good price. Now, at the bottom of my ribbon, I learned this from Claire over on where I will be designing on My Creative Spirit. She puts stuff on the bottoms of her, all different stuff, of her ribbons. And so I got in the habit of doing this. And I like it. I used to put beads, just beads. But then when I watched Claire, she would put these cardboard just like that pieces. She honestly had so many. She could envision all these different things to go on the bottom of ribbon. It was crazy. And I had so many ideas. So I'm incorporating that into this card that I'm making. And all of this is for one 4-sided card. And then when you see that, you can pick out which one you like. And if you get inspired by just one side of the card I'm making, you make one card out of that. And then move, you know, to doing the inside section. And before long, right, Pam? You're going to be doing all 4 sides of your card. And think nothing of it. Now, these are little cotton strings that I had from a flower set that I had gotten. And I saved them, and I just pulled them through, and I glue gunned the back, and they held, and it looks like a nice little mustache, doesn't it? And now here's the flowers from the Tim Holtz thin knit die. You get about 100 of them, I'm not kidding. And then you distress the color, make one dark, one medium, and one light, and pile them up here in the corner. I generally like to switch up my corners. I'll do the right, and then, you know, you can see the teals to the left. Try to mix things up, and you will not get bored. So there's 3 little flowers on there, and then I put a Tim Holtz carnation, a little, I don't know if it's a carnation or a rose, an opened rose, but they're ceramic, and I loved the cream. It matched the paper in the back. So see how it comes together? And it's all in front of me. That's the beauty. I've prepared everything. I've die cut everything that I can think of that would be what I want to put on there. And look at these tags. This is in that paper, that 1 8x8 sheets of paper. And they fit perfectly in these tags I had. So I was going to cut them with my guillotine cutter, but it was giving me a little bit of trouble there. So I thought, why am I doing that? Take my good pinking shears, and they're nice and long. One pass and you can cut right across that blue, because I mean you have to cut it so that it fits down into your envelope, right? So that's what I did. Look, at tucked it in and then leave it out, thinking of you in the blue. Whoa, is that cool or what? It's amazing what you find in a paper pack, isn't it? I found that beautiful flower, that beautiful bird in there, and I fussy cut it, and then I distressed it. Look at there. There's our tags all done, and it only took us 15 minutes. And it has all kinds of things. You could corrugate your cardstock, you know, with that corrugator thing that you run the paper through, and it makes all of the valleys and mountains and valleys, the accordion, it makes an accordion. And do that, and that would make a lovely spot, you know, to put on your cards. Here I'm taking the corner and I'm lifting it, I'm curling it up. I'll lift this up so you can see it. I'm curling it to get that look of, well, of course, a curled edge. Like that. It always reminds me of a pirate's on a ship, you know, his map. I always think of that when I do this, but with all my vintage cards, I roll up one. You can be assured one section will have a rolled up corner. And you use your hot glue gun to get it to seat at the other end. It dries instantly, and just make sure it's as high as you'd like it. And then put some paper, you know, cardstock behind it. I had to be very careful because it was flaking off. But there we go. So I thought I'm going to tuck some of this in there just so you see a little bit of the music. It had musical notes, and that looked nice. I haven't got that down in the back yet, so I'm just kind of, I'm peeling it to move it over here. Yeah, because I realized that I didn't have this glued down, the top part. So I love that. But then I had to figure out, okay, I got to do something with that empty corner. So I got out some doilies. These are vintage doilies, my friends. Beautiful old vintage doilies. I was going to put that there with this round vintage doily, but I didn't like that. But I did like the fact that the bottom doily had a corner on it. And it was gorgeous. So I cut across. I tucked it under this because it wasn't put down yet. So I was able to design, and now I'm going to quickly hot glue it, put it on there, and look at that. I've got a beautiful corner, just a beautiful corner from taking out, you know, when you're going thrifting or you have a doily under a lamp, grab it and rip it all up. That's what I do. Oh, hi, I really love that doily. Can I have it? No, I don't. Well, if my family, I do. Yeah, you don't want that doily, right, Sue? Hey, Barb, I love that runner on your table. Do you really like that? Yeah, so here's an old linen doily. I love it. So I set it down on the top, glue gun it. Don't make it permanent yet. And then I wanted to take, oh yes, I'm using my silicone tapper, that's for sure. You only get so many burns before the top of your fingers fall off. So the other half, I turned it around and I put it underneath, just like that. And it looks like a nice frill. Then I'm going to cut the right side off and move it over. That's as simple as that. Oh, look at it, it's too big. Well, then make it small. Cut it off. Yeah. So just kind of get enough padded down, then cut that right side off and just move it over a bit and you'll be fine. Now that's not going there, of course, but it'll all come into place. I'll find a spot for it. And I'm looking at this thinking, I got to cut the top off. I don't want too many things. And there you have it, right there. And then when you put something over top of this, you're going to think that that all went together. And it didn't. That's not what I'm using. Now, I was looking around my craft room during the day, and I saw that I had a beautiful shadow box. And this shadow box, along with this tutorial that I saw, I'm going to leave her link. She does beautiful vintage cards, and I was inspired by one of her cards, and I asked permission if I could put her link on my channel, and she told me I could. So I'm going to link you over so you can enjoy her work. I think we should support one another so other channels can grow. So that's what I'm going to do at the end. And you know, it's nice when you find, if you have a channel and you see somebody else's channel and you like their work, link it onto yours. You not only will they grow in numbers and viewers, but your channel will too. You know, the Lord will bless you for doing that. Sometimes I think we tend to not want to share anything because we don't want, and I'm not talking about anybody here, I'm just, it's just in our nature to want to achieve things alone, and you can't alone. You need to include people and bless them and make them excited to know that you're going to help their channel grow. If you like their work and they're doing a good job, then you get them encouraged. That's what I've got to say about that. Now, don't let this frighten you here, because you have a thin frame and I'm going to make acetate. So what you do is you take your stylus that you can press down into your acetate, press it down on the inside of the die that you have right there, in this case this oval, then go around it. I can see I need at least 1/8 of an inch going around that I can put glue on. Now, because acetate collects lint, just grab a little bit of baby powder and put it on with your cheek blush, you know, that you get where at the dollar store where nothing's $1. And then look at that. And not only that, you get the embossed look because you press down with your stylus into the into your acetate. So that's really nice. You get that bubble look. And we're going to seat that there and showcase, just like that shelf that I have. You're going to showcase that lace. See that? You're going to make it work for you. You're not going to hide it. It's going to be like behind pretend glass, which is the acetate. And it does look like one of those shadow boxes to me, except for it's not a box, it's a shadow oval. And it's gorgeous, and it looks like something that should hang on the wall and showcase that vintage lace. That was my thought doing this. So I've got that seated down. I have to glue it now, so you want to make sure it's in the right spot and just do a little bit at a time. Let me tell you that. Don't try to put too much glue because you're working with acetate. And just go around and do certain spots and then hold it, and that's all you need. You don't need to entirely go around, but putting it on your cardstock, the craft cardstock, just put it underneath. Now here's where it's coming alive. I wanted this beautiful twig of leaves right there. I mean, that was perfect, just perfect. And we are going to work on making these leaves come alive as well. They're not going to stay flat. Now, the only thing I would have done, I would have taken my stylus and made them 3-dimensional. The second layer, I put 2 layers on it. Generally, I put 3, but this time I put 2. And this is where you're going to sit and you're going to design. And you're always going to be thinking of thirds, right? So you can see that I have that accordion with the butterfly on the lower left. Now I'm going to put my filigree to the bottom lower right, and then I'm going to work my leaves up on the top of the left, and then soon as it tells you, you know, you can't put too much on, Only when there's too much, as if you're covering what your focal point is. You don't want to cover your focal point. And that focal point is this lace that's behind the shadow oval there, my shadow box. So I don't want to cover too much of that. But I am using those two colors, the beautiful pastel peach and the teal. Now I'm going to work on ghosting my leaves. I want to have the bottom layer of leaves behind them but raised up so that it's a shadow. It looks like a shadow, and we're going to keep it light and dark, light and dark. I'll show you how I do that. And as soon as I get done there, and that deep, deep round accordion with the butterfly on it there. I don't know why I can't think of what that is all the time. Isn't that crazy? My accordion circle. How's that? That richness that the deep, deep vintage photo brings everything else out. I just love that. I love to have something in your project, in your card, if it's going to be in the brown tones, the brown and linen, you know, the brown and linen. You want to make sure that your browns are not all the same color. And here we go. We're just going to add some glue to the filigree, and then we'll come back and we'll design it. Now here we go. I took a Copic marker. I think I hold them up, and I am just making the right hand side darker, and then I'm going to come in with one and make the bottom really dark, the bottom of the leaf. And I'm going to fan them like this. I'm just flicking. I'm using that flicking technique, but I'm only doing at the bottom of the stems for now. And then I'm going to take a darker one. And these are in the caramels. And I am going to leave the link. They are two different browns. You would not even think you'd work them together, because I just see the color and I know that's the color I want. I don't look at the numbers. I don't care. I look at the end and I say, yes, those two colors will blend together. They go together. It's a leaf. And I wanted the bottom tip super dark. And I wanted to bring it out until it was so light. Then I came in with my Prisma pencils. I made the lines that these leaves have in them. And then I went back with my Copic mid-tone. I took the mid-tone and went over the Prisma pencil, and then I took the vintage photo and I did just the ends. There they are. Aren't they odd? They don't even go together, but yet they do. I go by my eyes. Now, if I want to get, you know, you can use the numbers. Of course I do. If you want to have a set, you know, like an E24, 26, 28. You could do that if that's, you know, makes you comfortable and you're just learning. But me, I'm an artist that looks at color, and if they look like they're going to complement each other and work for me, I take them out. And if they don't, I'll just cover it up with something else. No biggie. No biggie. This isn't rocket science when you're doing something like this. And I wanted to use that skeleton leaf, but it took away from my leaves, especially when I finished them. They look beautiful. I must say they did. I really enjoyed the process. I took a little while to get those leaves down. The only difference, I said I would have made them three-dimensional. You know, took my stylus, put them on a mat, and rubbed them into the mat so that they were formed. I would have done that. I was going to do 3 layers, like I said, and then, I don't know, things got ahead of me and I forgot to do it. So, yeah, so then I wanted to have a bird. I wanted a bird because I had a butterfly and I wanted a bird. So I went back to my, that's way too big, Carol. I went back to the papers and found the most beautiful bird ever. And he sat on the filigree, of course. Now, I ripped this off. I'm just going to tell you right now, that skeleton leaf got ripped off. I didn't like it. And instead, I put some of that, I put down in there, oh, what do you call it? I said it already at the beginning. There's this peachy color. I can't hone this into my camcorder, but I'm just doing the edges here so that they have two tones to them. They're not flat. I just made a shade on them and it made me happy. And then I went up with my vintage photo lightly and did the other side, and I like that look. But this stuff you don't have to do. This is just play stuff. But I knew here I'm going looking for that bird. I wanted a bird on the right hand side sitting on the filigree as if the filigree were branches of a tree. That was my thought process. I'm getting close to birds there, and I am going to cut the perfect one out and fussy cut it. And I put so much of that crystal lacquer glossy accents on it. The first time I put the glossy accents on it, I put my arm in it. I actually I put my elbow in it. I couldn't believe it. I went to rest to look at that other butterfly if it needed anything right into my glossy accents. Crystal lacquer, whatever you want to call it. So I had to start over. And I'm so glad I did, because I made that so thick that this bird almost looks like he could take his wings and fly out. And that's another thing. If there would have been two birds like this, I'm putting I'm putting down the Doily strips because they're nice and thin. I would have cut into the body of the second bird a wing, and I would have tucked the wing into the glossy accent sticking out. So it looks like he's flying, yet he still has the glossy accents, and then the glossy accents will dry that beautiful arm, his feathery arm, out, and it looks like he would be flying. Excuse me, you are sitting on the butterfly. Oh my. Now I knew it needed different color lace up in the right hand corner because it was too pale. So this had a beautiful pattern in it. Beautiful pattern. And so I picked out the nicest pattern there. It looked like a fountain with water coming out. That's what I thought of when I saw it. Oh, it just took my breath away. And I said, yes, that is going there. I'm going to make a fountain of water. Fountain of Youth right in the top of my card. And it so went there, it was crazy. And then I used the liquid glue. And look at my bird sitting on that branch. And you know, this is the fun part because there's no stress to it. There absolutely is no stress to vintage cards. The stress comes when you're cutting and dyeing and stamping and die cutting and trying to put all these little images on a card. This isn't the way, it's a total each one is fun. But what I'm saying is this is beyond fun. This is real creating. This is like artistic exercise for your mind. It is. And now I am looking for that, what's that thing called? Cheesecloth. I'm looking for the cheesecloth. Now here comes the glossy accents. I don't know if this is number 2, but I put 3 layers on this bird. I had my hand in it twice, so I had to put 3 layers. And it dried beautifully. It just had this 3D look that blew me away. I just loved it. I just loved it. And then I put some on the little butterfly because these are 2 butterflies in one. I worked 2 butterflies into one, just cutting the one in half and putting the wings behind the smaller butterfly. And you get a close-up at the end on what it looks like. And I'm super happy with the front. It's not overloaded. And then I went into a box. You know the box that I keep all of my junk that beside me, and all my little pieces, parts are in that box. It's a shoebox. And I always grab it. Do you see? Oh, I know what I wanted you to see. I was going to use the Nouveau drops. Then I thought, Carol, you just stuck your arm in the glossy accents twice. Do you really want these dots going around the page? No, was my answer. I put them away so fast, it was crazy. I'm looking at it and I'm going, no. then you won't get, look at, you won't get the same size. I was trying to see if I told myself, if I can get 3 of these dots the same size, I will do it. Well, I couldn't. I got the one, and then I couldn't get another one to match the first one I put down, so they went away. I wasn't going to do it. And that's a good thing to do, is do a practice sheet. See if it works beside you. And, you know, it'll be nay or yay. Then I knew I had to do my little pearls all the way around my frame. There's something feminine, there's something vintage, there's something gorgeous that happens when pearls get put on a project. I don't know what it is, but it just makes me want to go out and buy jewelry. Not really. No, I have enough jewelry. I don't have to go buy any more jewelry. It just makes you feel like it's vintage. It's luxurious. And you know what? I was finishing up the glossy accents here on the 3rd layer, and I knew I was going to go to bed. And so I stopped my pearls. I said, I'll do those in the morning. I'm getting tired, and I don't want to, you know what happens with me when I get tired? I make mistakes. And I didn't want that to happen. So I set some of the lace underneath to keep it nice and even, so it would dry even like that. And I turned out the light. I said good night. And I came back in the morning with more vigor and excitement. Okay, now, I don't know if I must have lost this in the, I don't think I turned my camera on. But what this is an applique on the top. So you have your beige layer, your brown layer. Then I put a piece of applique on the top. I had this thick from Michaels. It is thick ribbon in burlap, and it's white burlap, and then it has the beautiful cotton lace in the middle. So I put that across the paper. I tucked it underneath that brown paper with my heat gun. And then I grabbed some of that fine chiffon ribbon, and then I grabbed the center of that thick ribbon, the burlap, and squeezed it together as much as I could to tie a bow in there and make a bow look like it's behind it in burlap. Did that come across? So that's a piece of burlap, and then in the middle of the burlap, you always see that at Michael's. And yeah, I did have satin ribbon on it, and I didn't like it. I had to tear it off, so it tore the paper off. But there you go. You just grab a beautiful gold applique. You can see I have a roll of it, and it is gold applique. And I only use it now and again, and I put it down there. But you know, don't be afraid that you have to cover things up. I don't like to cover all things up, because if I cover it up, I don't get to showcase it. But you do have to have an element of, you know, raising things up. So if you're just going to raise up things, don't use pretty things. That's my advice to you. Just use your laces that aren't so fabulous to you. They aren't so dear to your heart. Then put the good stuff over top that you want to showcase, if you're wanting to lift things up. That's what I'm going to say. Now, I was going to leave this gold. That's why I had it like that. But it didn't go. It just didn't go. When you're looking at it, it looks green, but it is a bright gold. And I didn't have any gold running through this. My desire was not to fill it with gold. Notice I wore, on my right hand there, I wore an antique ring with a butterfly made out of ivory. If you see it, that's what's on there, because I was working with butterflies. And it was vintage, so my ring on the left hand I got from my son and daughter-in-law for my birthday last year. It's a cameo, because I love cameos, and when you think cameo, I think vintage, so that's why I put those on. And yeah, and I had toilet paper there because I was going to do toilet paper flowers. I wanted to do some toilet paper roses, but I'm going to do that in the next. I'm going to show you how to do toilet paper roses that look real. And I'll do it in the next card going up. I wanted to just show you this card, and then I wanted to show you a super duper feminine card compared to this one. It'll be a four-sided card, and we're going to have toilet paper roses. And you're going to love it, and you're going to be making them. I know you will. So here I could hear this clank, clank, clank underneath my gun, my heat gun, and it was a screw that got loose. So I became an electrical genius, and I took the bottom off, and I got something that actually fit, that I could screw it back together, and yeah, it felt good about that. I can take care of my own problems in my craft room. Now I wanted to push back those flowers because they're made out of that chiffon, and so you could see little bits of the gold applique, the one in the left corner over there. I wanted to see some of it, so I put glue underneath the flower and then pushed the glue up, and then all the edges of the gold you could see. Yeah. Now I'm going to just put down the layers that I actually pulled the bow too hard and lifted up, and it's all going to be fine. There's that section all completed. Now it's the next morning. I couldn't hold on. Yes, I couldn't keep going. I just thought, oh, there's always tomorrow, and then I'll finish it up. So we're going to go to the inside. Now, not many people do four sides of their cards, but I tell you the reason I do, there's two reasons. One, I like doing it. That was complicated, wasn't it? And the other reason, because you be able to get four different outlooks on fronts of cards. By looking at this one tutorial, you get four different samples of making a vintage card, and all different. Everything is different, and we'll go through that later. But for now, I'm going with the beige and browns, as you can see, the teal and that pretty oyster color. Yes, that's what came to my mind this morning, oyster. I don't know if an oyster is that kind of orangey pink, but let's just say it is, just for time's sake. Don't have time to go look it up. So vintage, to me, I just have to distress the edges. There's just something about vintage cards that's nice. Now, you have a lot of options here. You can use a tool like this. You could use scissors, and the one thing I would tell you about scissors is if you don't hold them just right, you get a lot of cut paper where it really is cut and peeled back. It's all about the angle of the scissor when you're going to distress the edges. I've learned that through time. And yeah, so just anything sharp that you can run across your paper would be great. You just have to be careful, of course. I used to keep a whole lot of Band-Aids in my craft room, but now through time and experience, I don't cut myself. Now I just burn myself. Sorry. That didn't sound good, did it? So I still need my Band-Aids, whether I cut myself or not. I now burn myself, and I have every tool against burning yourself, you know, with the silicone ends sitting right in front of me. I look at them, but, you know, it takes time to stop what you're doing, and, you know, it takes like 3 seconds out of your creative time. Who wants to do that, right? So here's another option. Instead of making your, like, covering up another page with a full, oh, let me just tell you this. I have a box. We all know this box. I take it out all the time. And it has bits and baubles and kind of goodness in there from leftover projects that I've done in the past. And it's not a box. It's actually a nice dollar store where nothing's a dollar bin. It is nice. I'm looking at it. I'm saying, Carol, that's not a box. It's just that my junk thing that I keep everything in, my beautiful junk stash. So if I can't find it in there, then I'll move on to different cupboards and drawers. But I check there first because there are little things. I got that heart out of there, and that's already, oh, excuse me, yeah, oh, he's just looking around. What's she doing now? Boy, that's a lot of cards on, you know, a lot of sides on that card. Now, a frame. The reason why I want to stick this frame in this section is the left-hand side of the frame that you don't see here, that I just flung over to the left, it had a boo-boo in it when it ran through the die cut machine. But I know I'm going to use it in a vintage card because I'll just slide it under some stuff. So keep all your stuff that didn't turn out right for sliders, you know, to go underneath and hide it. And then you have beautiful die cut showing and nobody's the wiser, right? Now, I kind of knew what I was going to do here. So that's why I was able to, I don't know, move kind of quickly because I had a plan. And I didn't put that piece down. Don't put any paper down yet if you're going to, unless you think you're going to slide stuff. You're not going to slide stuff underneath it. Boy, it's early this morning. I am so sorry. I got to get my brain working. Do a brain exercise. Okay. So I put some of the nice doily that I had in the front. I had a little piece of this doily, 2 pieces on the front of the card. So I want to run that theme through my card. And you know, I know some people think that's crazy to do all 4 sides of your card. Like, look at all that stash you're using up when you could have 4 separate cards. I know, but this is mainly for, one, the tutorial, just to show people 4 cards in one, and then I don't have to do 4 different edits, 4 different voiceovers. I can do it all in one card, and it's a pretty card to get, I think. I'm going to set it aside possibly for my 20,000 subscriber giveaway, and we shall see. I need to make a box for that as well. It's the only way it, you know, will travel nicely. So here we go. We take one of the envelopes. That's why I always say make 2 or 3 things. If you're making one small thing, just add a couple more, and then you'll have extras. Especially when you're doing vintage cards, it's nice because you could put 2 of these on the inside. It's almost like making a small mini album without the other, you know, 22 pages. That's all. Yeah, it's the way you look at it, right? Now, what am I doing? Oh, I'm trying to find a place for this heart, and that's where it's going to go, right there. Vintage cards, the beauty of vintage shabby chic cards is there's little crevices all over, and it doesn't look out of alignment by putting all little things down into it. The only way it would look at a line is if you went out of the color scheme that you're doing. If I put something purple in there, like a purple heart, that's not good. Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that. I am so pleased with it. And that bird in the paper collection, I thought was just perfect right there. And sometimes I just need to look at it, and you know, it'll give me some ideas and inspiration to keep going on the other side. And I know people wonder, why did you put like a bow and all of that, you know, a poofy flower on the back? Because it was pretty. That's why I do things. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I just knew that a bow like this, especially using that really nice, what do you call that ribbon? I can never think of this ribbon, but it'll spit out of my brain. It's nice and soft, and nothing's going to happen to it when you put the card down. So here we are. Now we get to use the large of these beautiful fans. I call these fans, but they're not, of course. First thing in the morning and then late at night, my brain gets soft. Look at that. Isn't that nice? I love the darkness. It just pows that page right up. That one, you know, and I look at every page as separate. And now I'm going to put, it needed to have some of that oyster color in there. So I cut off a bigger, actually I think it is the same size as that teal one. I don't know. No, it's got a different pattern. So I just cut it in half and I slid it behind there because the round accordion circle is big enough to do that, to add a big butterfly, and then it brings out all of the colors I'm incorporating into this card together, and I think it looks pretty sweet myself. And then of course we're going to do pearls, and don't trust your pearls because they have sticky on the back to stay there. Oh no, 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 no. I have gone back to get a card to put in the mail and it was missing 2 or 3 pearls because I forgot to put the glue in the early stages of my card making. So now I make sure to always put a little dot of liquid glue underneath, and then they'll be secure. And while I'm explaining this, it's like me. I like to explain things as if you've never made a card like this before. You know, we all have to start somewhere, and I think this is where my creativity really has a little joy party when I do vintage things. And it's just something I love to do, and I don't do enough of them. When I got started, I thought, Carol, why did you leave doing vintage cards to the wayside? You need to do this. And then my friend Janet said, I would like to see some vintage cards, Carol. And I thought, I would too, Janet. So I'll make some. And then I'm going to show you, like I said in the next tutorial, I'm going to do a white on white. And then when you open it up, you're going to get a surprise, 2 surprises on the inside. And I will possibly, well, I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet. I just know the cover is going to be white on white. And I'll show you a different way to really emphasize having a vintage card and make it pretty. Now I needed more teal because when I flipped the left side of that card base, when I brought it up and curled it over, it had quite a bit of teal there. So I wanted to emphasize it, and it just didn't leave my heart in limbo because that's a pale color. So I brought the heart to life. Your eye will go there and you'll see both of them. So I needed to come up with something here, and I wanted to showcase the craft paper. So that's why I went to the leftovers of the cardstock. Just keep them over to the right, right side of your stash papers. And like Shelley Geigel always says on her tutorials, put it in your reserves. So that's what I did, and there, isn't that pretty? And then another thing that will save you a lot of misery, make sure your printing is right side up. It is really easy with vintage style cards to your eye to be caught up with something else, and then you forget, you turn your paper upside down, put everything down, and then you notice it when you open it up. How do I know that? I've done it many times. So now I always check that out. Another thing, when you cut your base, make sure the dies you're going to use fit on the base. That, right, Tina? Just make sure that they fit on the card that you're doing. That's another thing, especially if you're using like really large die sets. Mine, these are spellbinders, and I saw some on this girl that I watched her tutorial. She used a different style. I have to go over and check it, of dies, and I'm going to find it and leave it on my blog for you because they're absolutely stunning dies to use for vintage cards. It may pop up in my mind, but who knows? I haven't had my breakfast yet, and I'm working on an empty mind. Haven't filled it with food yet. Yes. So here we are. We're going to cut that out. And it's perfect to know how to cut. If you're going to make a shaker, that's what I'm going to make, by just taking your stylus, embedding it down into the acetate on the inside oval. In my case, the oval, right? I used hot glue there. Yeah, you're not going to move hot glue over, Carol, but that looks pretty straight. It doesn't have to be really straight because it's vintage and you can always straighten it up with another piece of paper. Yes, so what was I talking about back there before I got on a tangent right there? I remember, it's using your stylus to press down to make an imprint, to know where you have to cut. And you can see where you have to cut because you only have that 1/8 of an inch around my frame to have the acetate. So seeing the embedded stylus mark going around, I know exactly where to cut it. And you don't want to use markers in that marking out the inside because you know it's no good to do it permanent. And if you do it non-permanent, it's all over your hands, it's all over your project, forget it. So I learned to take your stylus, just set it down on something firm and press it down, and you have the perfect guide to cut the outside so that it doesn't show past where you want it. Now these Doily strips are fabulous. I have to order some more. I only have 1 pack left. And I'll tell you how much I use them. I ordered 20 packs. I don't know, it doesn't seem like long ago, and I have 1 pack left. These are wonderful for shakers. And I'm going to make it too high because I have some prills. And in the colors that I had the perfect oyster color and the perfect teal. So I'm going to mix them. Prills are, they're gorgeous. Just like the name, Prills. Doesn't that just run off your tongue so beautifully? Yes. I love to have some prills, please. Reminds me of somebody with an English accent. I love to listen to Claire on her tutorials with her accent. It's just so soothing, you know, an English accent. Somebody said to me one time they liked my Canadian accent, but I don't feel like I have an accent. I don't know. Eh? That's the only thing. I try not to say that. My mother's from Newfoundland, so I used to have a bit more of that accent when I was younger, but I don't have it anymore. So here we go. Let's cut around the edge. This one, when you put, oh, let me tell you this. When you put your acetate over top of the sticky, I didn't do it. I forgot to put liquid glue before you put the acetate down, even though the Doily strips are very sticky. I didn't, so I'm running this glue over it as far up as I can get to make sure that it doesn't release itself. So that's just a little something, something to be reminded to do that when you put your next piece, when you put your acetate down to hold your prills inside. And if you haven't seen Claire on My Creative Spirit, you have to go over there because she's not only talented, but her voice is so nice to listen to. Makes a difference, doesn't it? Like somebody's voice, when you turn on a tutorial, can either keep you there or you only can watch it in little bits because, I don't know, voice means a lot to some people. Like if I said, wow, let's see, you just take that hunk of paper over there, right there, that really frilly one, and you put her down there. Yeah, not going to get up. What are you thinking? You just put glue on it, people. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Bet you weren't expecting that. Yeah. So, anyway, I got finger marks on that, and the best way to get this off is add more color to it. Or add more finger marks, either or. You can do whatever you like, it's your card. Now, you wouldn't think, if you look to the right, I've got musical notes, and they are in the right position. You can read them. I always check that. Whenever there's a design or printing or writing, check it to make sure you have your page right side up, or you're going to be not happy. You know, it doesn't make for a nice, yeah. Why don't I just not move my glue gun right there and burn my wrist? I could have done that, but I didn't. Oh, yeah. When my glue gun exploded, I thought it was, I told you, I think in the earlier of the video, I can't remember because that was yesterday. That's the beauty. I'm going to be 66 next on the 19th. Can you believe it? 66. That's okay. You know, it's better than being 106. You know, it could be, that would be awesome. Can you imagine living to be 106? I can't. because at 66, there's certain things that are just disappearing, like my thoughts. We had this discussion, my husband and I, because he was in his office and I was in the kitchen, and I'm talking to myself. Isn't that pretty? Look at those pearls. Do they not match those flowers beautifully? And it's uniform. Can you see that? Because on your right hand side of the page, here I'm just going to cut this roll. Remember I bought these pearls, this roll of pearls at the dollar store where nothing's a dollar. I love this because you can cut rows off that you want to use, and I didn't have small enough little pearls to go around this, and then I was reminded I had that roll. So here I'm just going to put the glue all the way around. Hopefully I can make it to the other side without it drying on me. So let's get back there. So I was talking to myself in the kitchen and just having a little soliloquy. That's just a nice word of talking to yourself. And my husband said, who are you talking to out there? I said, myself. And he said, you're kidding. You're having like a full-grown conversation out there. And I said, yeah. I said, what were you saying? I said, I don't know. I can't remember. You had to be there. I really didn't remember what I was talking about. It's just that I had some thoughts come up in my mind. So I thought, that's something. And so I just thought, I was thinking of this, and that would be a good idea. Have you ever done that? Oh, pretty pearls. Prills. Prills and pearls. Woo! He just flew away. Prills and pearls. So now I took out the granddaddy pearls. This is a set at Michael's. You get 3 different sizes. So then after, I'm sure he was thinking, I'm entirely like, who has a conversation like that? So then later on in the day, I go down the basement and I hear him talking, and I said, who are you talking to? And he said, myself. And I said, you've got to be kidding. You just said to me that was odd that I was having a full-blown conversation with myself, and you are having one down here. And he said, I know, but the difference is I remember why I'm talking to myself. I don't know. You had to be there. It was pretty funny. And I seriously didn't remember whether I was talking to myself because I had to get some salt in the salt shaker. I remembered that, but I don't know why I talked to myself over salt, but you never know. You never know. Now, isn't this pretty? I should slow this up just a minute. I couldn't slow it up anymore because I would have lost my voice over there, and I couldn't remember what I said back then. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you? Yeah. So here's the front. And it's good sometimes to just sit and think. Take a think on why you did what you did. It might take you 5 minutes, but think, okay, why did I do this? Why did I put the leaves on the curvature of the frame? Why did I put acetate behind the frame and not cover up the lace more, that's behind it? And if you have I went to my stash and had all of these tassels. They were all hooked together, but they were 4 different colors, and they were the perfect size. And that one colored tassel, you couldn't get it any closer to those leaves if I ordered them myself. Now, if you have white tassels, you can spray them the color you're using with distress inks. Just put a lot of ink down, spray some water, and do it on acetate. Then fold your acetate up, put it down into a bottle, and enough to get a spray out, and you can spray the tassels. Now, when you cut these tassels, watch, they will explode out because they're twisted in some way that when you cut it, they absolutely unwind so quickly. So you want to quickly do a sailor's knot. I don't know what a sailor's knot is, but let's say that's what see how they exploded right there? And I had to put that knot quickly in it, or I wouldn't have had a tassel. It would have all unwound before my eyes in 3 seconds. Now I wanted to get the measurement somewhat close because one is going to be in the front and one is going to be in the back. So I measured it out, and I'm going to put a nice globby of hot glue on there to make sure that this is going to hold that knot, and it's not going to come on. It's not, get it? Going to come undone. It's going to stay in place. So once you have that, you're going to do the back, cut that off because it's covering up my filigree. You don't want that. Just cut it above the knot. And then we're going to take a tour. I put this down into just the natural speed. I didn't speed it up at all because we are headed down towards the end of the tutorial, and I wanted you to see when I do a view of the card exactly, you know, what my mind process, yeah, throw that out, Carol, was when I created it for you. And I don't know, it has all kinds of texture. That's one thing about vintage cards, is you're going to use different textures. That's what makes it appealing. You know, you have corrugated board, you have this beautiful accordion, whatever's underneath that butterfly. Yeah, that I can't remember. See that? And then you have your gusset, which is 1/4 of an inch. I would have made that a little bit larger if I knew I was going to put the large round accordion thingy inside, but I didn't, so I thought 1/4 of an inch gusset would be fine. 1/2 an inch would have been perfect for this card because then I could have really stacked the inside up if I wanted to. That's if I wanted to, yes. So I'm holding this down. I'm going to cut it off the back. It's seated right there by my organza ribbon. Organza ribbon is beautiful when you're making vintage cards. That and satin, there's just nothing like it. It's just so beautiful. And it doesn't overtake your card because it's so see-through, you know, and light and feathery. It's gorgeous. So here we go. We're going to tie this up, and I'm going to just show you a little bit of it. I hope you enjoyed the pictures. Thank you very much, as always, for stopping by for a visit with me. And I hope you learned something, you know, just a little bit of inspiration. There you have it. Matchy to those leaves like crazy. Love going into my stash. And I love tassels on a vintage card. They're so sweet. If I had had that kind of a beigey, like the lace on the upper right corner, that would look nice too. But this really did add something to the card because it matched the leaves and it kind of set the tone of the card. And there you have the front. We have the beautiful vintage lace on the inside of that oval die cut. And I'll try to get all of the links for you later today over on my blog. It won't be there right away. I always tell you, don't go look right away. It takes me time to look it up and that. And there's the prills inside our shaker to match that flowered pattern. And the butterfly there has 3 layers, keep to odd numbers. And inside the paper pack there were some tag cutouts. So you can do those with scissors. Remember, I was going to do it with the die cutter, the cutter thingy, but I just cut it with scissors because it's vintage, and you can get, you know, the longer the end of the scissor, the more accurate it is. And there's the gold little bit showing underneath that organza style flower. There it is, just peeking through. And I put quite a few pictures on there because I was pretty proud of this card, this 4-layered card. And I hope you enjoyed it, my friends. I sure enjoy spending time with you. And as always, I look forward to your comments. And you have yourself a blessed week. I am going to be creating the next card today to show you the difference between this style of vintage and another style of vintage shabby chic card. many styles of it because it's your own style, right? Anyway, have a lovely day. And you know I love hearing from you. There you have it. Isn't that pretty? The leaves all decked out. I'm happy. So enjoy the pictures, and I will see you, of course, on my next tutorial. Take care, everybody.